Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to CyberSpeak Labs, Defenders and Lab Coats. This is probably going to be one of my most favorite podcasts that I'm going to be recording for this upcoming season. I have two special guests that are entering the lab today. We have John and Eric. So, hi, John. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Lab.
Hi, Lab.
It's going to be a fantastic episode. I'm excited. So before we kind of deep dive into our questions today, John, do you want to start us off by talking about your background and maybe your journey into cyber?
Sure. John, I've been in IT/security for about 22 years. I started off doing networking, building systems and building networks for several different organizations. And then I kind of migrated into security by just happenstance in 2007. And I've been doing that, full time since then. I don't sit on the operations side anymore. I'm a consultant now, which is a much better life than anybody else is living on the operational side. But been doing this a long time. Happy to be here.
Oh, hey, Dallas. Welcome to the recording.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We always like surprise guests.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We're just doing quick introductions right now. So if Eric wants to go, or Dallas, if you want to take the mic and kind of give about your journey into cyber.
Go for it, Eric.
Yeah, so I'm Eric. I've been doing this quite a long time, like John, and also like John, I started in the networking world, building networks for various companies, and again, like John, I'm in a consultant role these days. One of my favorite demotivator posters was the handshake that says, consultants, why solve the problem when there's good money to be made, prolonging it.
Yeah.
But no,
awesome,
we don't do that really.
You're like secret.
So I've been doing cybersecurity now for probably about 10 years, I suppose. And I got into it because I was administrating and building a lot of firewalls for people, and it was kind of a natural progression to just keep diving further and further over to the cybersecurity world.
So how many times did you guys accidentally block a website maybe and took down the business for a day?
All the time, on purpose.
All the time.
What's
I
this
feel like
rule
you have
for?
to do
No
that at
one
least
knows?
3 or
Okay.
4 times in your career. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens. Sure.
Yeah, if you haven't done
Go
that,
for it, Dallas. Sorry.
you're not living, right? So I've been doing this for a while as well. I've owned my own companies for probably the last 20 plus years. Kind of in that cybersecurity / IT role. My previous company was strictly an MSP. This obviously we dove a lot into cybersecurity, and then TreeTop is obviously more on the cybersecurity side, but still jump into the IT side as well.
Well, awesome. Thank you, all three of you, for joining this session today. And there's one topic that I specifically wanted to ask you guys about. You all have very diverse backgrounds, and you're all very, very passionate in the field. How did you guys start BSidesKC? Like, what is the backstory to how BSides started?
Let's let John go first, because he kind of started it
there you
first
go.
time around.
So I went to the first BSides in Las Vegas back in 2009, and I came back to Kansas City, and I said, you know what, let's start a BSides here in Kansas City. And so I worked with some local people, and this is about the time that SecKC was getting started. So I knew the guys that were starting that, and I used to go to SecKC a lot. And so we just did a BSidesKC. The first one was in coordination with the FBI sponsored part of it, and we had several issues with, they wouldn't let us teach lock picking, they wouldn't let us do other things. We had about 100 people, about 8 speakers. We did it again the next year, about the same amount of people, same amount of speakers. Everybody loved it, but I really had been doing it by myself up to that point. And so it was hard to wrangle sponsors. Nobody was giving away money like they had been the last 7-8 years. So it was hard. So I just kind of put it to bed, and then just, whatever happens, happens. And then that segues into Eric's part of it.
So it sat dormant for how long, John? About 5 years?
5-6 years. Yeah.
You were 2011, 2012, right, John?
10 and 11. So
10 and 11. Okay, so 2017 is the reboot. So I'll let Eric tell that part of the story.
Yeah. So then let's see. I had been to DEF CON and Hacker Summer Camp, BSides, DEF CON, Black Hat, and all that. And then to follow up that, a coworker of mine and I decided to drive out to Denver to BSides Denver. And as we're wandering around BSides Denver, ran into the guy over here to my left, Dallas, randomly, which I knew from growing up in the same hometown as him. And we all decided at that moment we should do this in Kansas City. It's kind of one of those things where this is a cool conference and everybody was feeling positive and having a good time. And like, why can't, kind of like what John said, why don't we just do this out there? I had not been aware of the previous BSides in Kansas City. And so when we reached out to the global organization to start the process, they said, well, there's a guy that already has kind of the rights to it, so to speak. So let's reach out to him. And then I had actually known John a little bit from a client that I worked at with, which was the company he was working for, just in a different department. But we had to interact a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, I know this a-hole. Well, I'm sure John will be totally cool." And so then John joined the group, and we started it. This time around, though, we decided, and I think it was kind of a decision early on to go through the nonprofit route, because we're all kind of passionate about the community and giving back, and wanted to put that stamp on it that this is truly a nonprofit organization for the community, and not, and that was our main mission, right? Community and education, and bringing students in as well. So that's kind of where it got started. And then we announced it, what was it, like maybe November, December of 2016.
I don't even think it was that. I think we were only like 4 months out, and we were
Yeah.
searching for dates, and finally said, you know what, just pick a date, let's roll with it. And so it was an interesting little ride, and I think it was an eye opener for us, because getting an event going was not easy. And then, especially having John kind of there to help us out. I mean, obviously it was a little bit different than a few years prior. John was kind of our curmudgeon that this isn't going to work. And it's like, hey, John, settle down. We're going to give this a shot. And he's like, no, sponsors don't pay. And so it was interesting. And I think it goes to show kind of the difference of when, especially John was trying to start BSides, between sponsorships, between the lockpicks. I mean, now you wouldn't have a conference without a lockpick village.
No.
So it's a whole different world. And it was very much a kind of, you said you were a hacker and you were kind of frowned upon. And now it's like, oh yeah, I love hacking, and so it's just kind of it's a different world than it was. And fortunately, it's become much, much easier to share that knowledge. You don't have the FBI or, some other 3-letter agency waiting off stage as you're presenting stuff. So just way different than when, that was originally started.
I think that's a good segue to kind of, I don't have a very good recollection of that first conference because it was such a whirlwind, planning it and everything. But I would say that the skill set that we use in cybersecurity came in very handy for starting a conference from scratch with no experience, which is just be resourceful. Just use your resources and make it up as you go. And you're going to trip and fall along the way, but that's how you learn, right? So.
Yeah, then I mean, perfect to what Eric was saying there. I mean, we were calling every vendor we could think of, and your big vendors, your multi-billion-dollar companies were like, "Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, we love supporting the community. Here's $500." And it's like, really? Like, I know my company just bought 6 figures of from you, and you give us $500, you pricks. But anyway, yeah, so that was definitely interesting. But not saying we're not appreciative, but it was a rough go, especially from the early standpoint. And now it's just a lot different. Once you're established, once you show that, obviously people enjoy the conference, you enjoy the conference. So, it's a lot different trying to go out and find funds and get people to really support you once you're a known entity. So,
Yeah. And like one thing, I travel a lot. And when I say I'm from Kansas City, BSides KC is known globally. Like, I'm not even kidding. There's people that are like, "Oh, we see people post on X, we see people post on LinkedIn, like BSides KC. They got it figured out over there." So, congrats for having a great reputation.
yeah,
Well,
thanks.
appreciate that, but I'm going to say we could not do it without the community, including the extended community here in Kansas City, because I mean, let's see, us three and a handful of other people kind of wrangle this thing together, but honestly, the production value that comes out of that is the community. It's the
Yeah.
groups of people that are adjacent to SecKC that put on all the hacking villages. It's the sponsors who are we have a handful that are year in, year out coming back, and because they understand the value of promoting this community and really getting people involved. I mean, that's kind of one of our big missions, is just getting more people involved, because we're so short, with talent. And anyway, so it's been fun, but
And
it definitely takes a village.
Yeah, most certainly. And I mean, we have some people that started off as volunteers that now they are 110% core to the mission. Um, Everyone, including those volunteers, we all have different people that we've known around. So, of course, you can make some phone calls and say, "Hey, how would you like to keynote B-Sides this year?" So we get a fairly large pool of talent across the world, really, for BSides KC, which is actually pretty impressive. But I think it's a testament to everybody working together and enjoying what the heck they're doing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the focus on kids, the focus on students is a huge part of what we do. I mean, we get probably 200. What we have 200 last year.
Close to 200 students.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
So
Wow.
about almost half of them.
Yeah. Which is just a focus area for us. We go out of our way to give away free tickets, and we reach out to all the different orgs. We have students that bus in from Fort Hays, Kansas, just for B-Sides, and they
Wow.
do it every year. I mean, this is like, it's consistent. So, I mean, that's really always been kind of the focus, is that focus on the kids and the guys coming up in the business, and show them what it's about, and get more people to be doing it and doing it right. There's a lot of people that do this work that don't really do it right. It's a day job, and I get that, but you really have to, especially early in your career, have to be pretty dedicated to it to be
Passionate.
well at it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come all the way from Hayes and still won't give Dallas a ride. What does that say?
Yeah, right. They're smart. That's what it says.
Yeah. I mean, we have
So
like,
I have to ask you guys this. Oh,
no,
go ahead, John.
We have volunteers that my whole family volunteers for this event. My wife, my kids, it's that kind of thing. So
they're making up the slack for John, really, is what it comes down to.
They are.
That's awesome. Now, I have to ask you guys this, right? You have such a great backstory about BSides KC, and like I could just tell how passionate you guys are about BSides KC. Now, do you have any future plans for the conference, or maybe an idea that you guys want to start implementing down the road?
It shifts every year. I mean, we go from 2-day conferences to 1-day conference, back to 2 days, even having a whole weekend. It shifts every year, and it really comes down to, how much work we want to put into it and if we can support it. So, I mean, we don't want to do something that people don't want to come to and be part of. So it does shift yearly.
I don't have any major plans that I've thought of yet, but I would, I could use this time, I suppose, to put a call out for hacking villages. We're always looking for new and interesting of those type of workshops and villages for people to go explore and learn while they're at the conference. I have some other ideas that I won't announce here or list out here because I got to run them through
Totally fair.
the rest of the group first. Yeah. Nothing major though that I can think of. We're hoping to maybe bring back a kids village, but that takes a lot of extra time for people. Dallas has his nonprofit out there in Hayes, the STEM Harvest, that I'm going to put them on the spot and hope that maybe we can bring some of that out to BSides as well in the future. And that's more for like younger kids, right? That are not high school age, not maybe even younger than middle school.
Yeah,
age.
6 to 15 or so is typically our target range for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I remember my very first BSides KC. It was 2018, and I remember it as if I went there yesterday. In fact, I still have that same blue shirt, and I wear it with pride to work still to this day. The letters are a little faded, so it just says 20 on it, but people get the gist of what it is.
That's one of my favorite things is being around town and seeing our shirts.
The Blue Sea. You would think we're Blues fans in Kansas City, but I have to ask you guys this as well, and this is something I often get questions when I talk about conferences and stuff. How do you guys advertise? How do you come up with the designs or even the theme for that year?
That's all Eric for the most part. He does a lot of that work. He'll run it by us, but he pretty much knows what he wants to do. But it's all good ideas. I mean, he has some artist folks that he works with, and then the outreach there. We try and have a theme every year. So I mean,
I go to the desert and I lick one of those toads, and then I have a vision.
So sometimes we have to wrangle. We have to wrangle Eric's ideas back in. Just throwing that out there. But no, he usually comes off with something out of left field, and we're like, okay, but what if we do this and make it more relevant to cyber? And he's like, yeah, I guess so. So.
Yeah, the beauty of it is we all kind of get along and we give each other a lot of grief. But if we didn't like doing it, we wouldn't do it anymore. That's just, if it's not a job. To me, it's something we do out of love for wanting to do it. So that's, if it ever becomes a job, any of us could walk away, and there's probably another person that could take up that thing, because we get plenty of support from the internal community here in Kansas City. So we have people like Dow said before that started out as one day volunteer that are helping run stuff. So I mean, that's just an organic thing that happens.
Yeah, and as far as advertising, we've strictly relied on social media, word of mouth, email. Like John said, we reach out to all the local universities. Back when the community was a little larger, when it was Twitter, that was a good marketing spot. It's not quite as good these days in the cybersecurity realm, but LinkedIn's been good. But at this point, I think a lot of it's just word of mouth, honestly, which is great that it's worked out that well for us.
Yeah, for sure. So this leads to my next question. I'm guessing you guys already have a date picked for 2025.
We do. Do you know what that is off the top of your head, anybody?
April 25th, isn't it?
Oh, it was April something. I don't remember.
I think you're right. April 25th.
Yeah, we're just started. April 25th, 26th. So we just started. Usually the kind of our rule of thumb is about 6 months out we start having some of the conversations. So we just started having some of the conversations, started figuring out themes, started working with the badge pirates who always create some, once again, going back to those people that just kind of tangentially help and all of a sudden become a part of the conference. Those guys, the huge shout out to the badge pirates. But yeah, so we just started having some of those conversations, figuring out themes, started figuring out badge design, things like that. And so, yeah, as soon as somebody gets the new website up and going, then we'll start getting some of those things, getting some of those things in place, and really start pushing forward with everything.
Oh, I'm
So
very
April
excited for it.
25th was the Friday. April 26th would be the main conference on Saturday, like usual. We do have a venue at Kansas City, Kansas Community College this year. So we would love to stay in the same place, but the same place isn't working out for us year over year. So we're kind of nomadically moving the conference around as availability happens, which has really been
Yeah,
the biggest challenge in the last few years, is just finding a venue for us because we have such unique requirements, and
yeah,
can't afford, to be honest, the convention centers because they just are too pricey for what we do.
they're expensive.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
gets away
and
from, what we're trying to do with, keeping a low cost ticket, but then also, like John said, is students of all ages get in for free.
right.
And that's
Yep.
introducing them the right way to cyber, introducing them to other people that are extremely passionate about what they do, and not the first thing that you do is go to, spend $800 on a ticket and find a bunch, not saying every conference this way, but $800 and going, okay, yeah, there's a bunch of people walking around in polos, but I didn't meet anyone. There was nobody that I could
Yep.
converse with afterward. I mean, that was a lot of people's standard conference experience, so you just make sure that you're not doing that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it absolutely helps when you guys have barbecue laid out, I just feel like the smell of the local, smoked meat just really gets people talking.
yeah,
Yeah, food
Yeah.
trucks, barbecue, a little bit of beer, it all, loosens everybody up. So
Sipping the cyber Kool-Aid.
I
Yeah.
personally enjoyed the ice cream truck we had a couple years ago.
it was nice.
Definitely John's
And
idea, right? He
what was the other one?
makes ice
Cotton
cream.
candy. The cotton candy lady was pretty
Yeah,
awesome
cotton
too.
candy was a bigger hit than I thought it would be, honestly.
Too bad we don't know anybody that owns an ice cream place, huh?
I know, what the heck.
Well, that's awesome. So I know there's three of you guys, and I know we're kind of wrapping towards the end and everything. I always want to propose this question, especially with you guys being an event. What is the best way for people to learn more about BSides Kansas City, or a good place to start, maybe registering to start their own BSides?
I would say our website, but I know it's not in good shape, so probably not that. But yeah, Twitter, X, whatever you're calling it these days. If they want to start their own B-side, reach out to the global org. I mean, they're still centrally managing that, and they'll give you, they expect you to do the work, but they'll give you guidance on where to head and how to work with them, because they're kind of hands off. They're just kind of managing the brand and all of that. But that's the first person I would reach out to.
SecurityBsides.com is the global website that lists all the B-sides around the world, and also has the contact information for the leadership over there. And by leadership, like John said, it's pretty loose. It's really more of, yes, you can do it. Don't do X, Y, and Z, and have fun.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, and so when we were getting started, especially aside from the primary B-sides, we were also reaching out to a lot of other chapters. Like Nova was one of them. Charm was one of them. There was Oklahoma. Actually, we spoke at Oklahoma. But there was a number of them that we spoke with, and they were more than happy to share with us. And that, once again, that kind of gives you the indication, holy shit, we're in the right place, right? Because, they're helping you to do something that they love as well. And so then we kind of turned around too. And, I would say, estimate, Eric, maybe 3 or 4 other security conferences that we've helped provide information. Hey, do this way, don't do it this way, use this software, don't use this software. So yeah, it's just it's a heck of a community. I mean, as everybody knows that's in cybersecurity, it's everybody's more than willing to help because we all enjoy what we do.
Yeah, and the B-sides chapter or the global has a lot. They have a mailing list. They have a Slack. So there's a lot of assistance there, and even conferences like Dallas said, we've chatted with a few people that aren't doing BSides specific conferences, but wanting to run their own cybersecurity conference, and just provided, some advice and guidance and answered questions and, do this, don't do that. And it's been just great to have that reciprocal feedback between all these groups.
Agreed.
That's awesome. Now, if someone wants to volunteer and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to be value add, what's your guys' advice to that?
Do it anyway. I mean, the biggest thing, and you know this as well as anyone, one of the best things that you get out of conferences is networking with other people. Not the networking we're thinking of, but the networking of with other people, finding those people. Oh my gosh, I didn't think there was another person on the planet that thought this. And so now all of a sudden you're heading to SecKC, you're heading up to other meetups together, and you start talking with some other people and find out, yeah, there really is a heck of a community in Kansas City.
Absolutely, always volunteer, and I would even suggest taking it a step further. Come give a talk. We even at our BSides, we don't do a blind CFP. We do review them, and we do take precedence for local speakers and for students. And just a quick side story: we had a guy named Jordan that gave a talk a few years ago in the RF Village, so it wasn't even on a main stage. And he got offered a job on the spot right after that talk, and took it for a defense contractor. Yeah. And so it's just, I mean, I always like to use that story because that's the kind of power that, like, just getting out of your shell and coming to a conference and doing these things can have, right? I mean, that's an extreme example, but it still, actually happened. And Jordan's still coming and talking and doing SecKC stuff. And yeah, it was really cool.
We had the guy a few years ago too that we knew he was young. We didn't know how young, but he ended up being still in high school and had a talk about exploits.
Yeah, Grant.
What?
I was going to say it might have been actually at the conference that you spoke at. But I think it was. But anyway, yeah, so just really cool stories like that maybe that serves as a jump point for somebody else. And like I said, if nothing else, like Eric said, get yourself out of your shell, start talking with some other people, and that'll really make those connections for when you're looking for a job or looking to move jobs. That makes it a lot easier.
Oh, that's awesome. So one last question before we end this episode. What is a good way for maybe people to follow you on social media? And what is a good ending advice that you could give out to the community?
We're on social media on LinkedIn, BSidesKC, BSidesKC on Twitter X. We are on the Facebook. Other social network.
Oh, we're on Mastodon too.
The Fediverse, yeah, we're in the Fediverse as well.
We're on Facebook as well, but yeah, it's not
Facebook
really a spot for
our website. So any of the above, we have emails listed. So we'll be following us for volunteer. We'll do call for volunteers. We'll do call for papers. All this is probably going to be coming up in January timeframe. And we have YouTube for going back and looking through old talks to see if you want to come volunteer or show up to a conference. And what was the second part of that question?
Just any closing advice you guys have.
I'll just go back and say, get involved. Just get involved in the community. Get involved. Even if you just show up and listen to talks and meet a couple people, meet one person, just go talk to one person at the conference. And
just never know who you're going to talk to. You might talk to your future boss. You might talk to somebody that you run into a couple years later. This community around here has a long memory, so don't burn any bridges. Just, bring your best self and it'll work out.
Yeah, I think Eric said it best. Just get involved. I mean, that's the biggest thing. If people aren't really for me. Well, they're not really for anybody. Any of us, I'm saying, your typical tech person. So, just go out, start, jumping out of your shell and trying some different things. That's going to be the only way to really progress.
Yeah, go to a SecKC meeting if you're in the neighborhood. It's actually, it just happened. So the next one won't be till January now, but it's Patch Tuesday.
It was meant to be.
Last night, yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, all three of you, so much for bringing your expertise, your passion to this platform. And I'm very excited to see what BSides is going to be like for this next year. And of course, if you're in the local area, make sure you volunteer, make sure you sign up. If you're wanting to even get involved in your local area, just Google and see what's around. You know, that's why we do cyber. We're very collaborative and we learn from one another. So thank you all so much. And make sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Thank you, guys.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
See ya.
Bye. Cheers.